welcome to this very exclusive conversation. In the past few months, I've been having a series of conversation, and at this extremely critical juncture where the entire national resolve is one, the topic which everybody is discussing, whether it is in the corners of chai ki dukan in UP, or whether it is Asansol, or whether it is Karnataka, or even in the TV studios, it is just one and one, that India-China face-off. When will India revenge the martyrdom of 20 of its soldiers? And I have an extremely important voice on this topic, somebody who I know personally, who I have debated along with on the television channels, and somebody who is a true patriot from heart. He does not mince his words when he speaks. I'm delighted to have with me Major General G.D. Bakshi. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Pradeep.
Thank you, sir. So let me begin this conversation with you, something which is on the recent development on the India-China face-off, and I want your reaction to it. The Chinese spokesperson, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson has said, and I quote, a step-by-step account of the Galwan clash. The Galwan Valley is located on the Chinese side of line of actual control in the west section of the China-India boundary. For many years, the Chinese border troops have been patrolling and on duty in this region. So what China is claiming is that the Galwan lies in the Chinese side of LAC. I want your response, Major General G.D. Bakshi, to it. Why has the Chinese made this statement after the Prime Minister's address?
I would personally think what Xi Jinping has said and what the Foreign Ministry has said is a personal taunt to all of us Indians and especially to Prime Minister Modi. What China has done is not off the cuff local initiative by the local commanders in Tibet and Xinjiang. It is a very well thought out, premeditated attempt to take advantage of what they think is India's weakened condition during COVID-19 to humiliate us publicly in front of Asia and the world, and to show that India is no match to China, number one. Number two, that it's at the geopolitical level, it gives us a warning not to align ourselves too closely with the United States, Quad, Japan, Australia, etc. And at the regional level, to tell us to try and deter us from trying to change the status quo in J&K, in as much as POK is concerned, Gilgit-Baltistan is concerned, Aksai Chin is concerned. Right? All these are our territories, and previous governments were even scared of admitting that these were our territories, because they put on you make it incumbent upon you to try and take them back. Now at least somebody has summoned the courage to say, yes, it is our territory, and that's good. That's good. So the Chinese have reacted, and we have to deal with it. Now what they did, yes, please.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
You know what they did this year? I'm just giving the backdrop so that we are all on the same page. Yes. This year, the Chinese brigades were exercising opposite Ladakh, right? And every year they exercise at this time of the year, and we also exercise after the snows have melted, so that just in case they do something funny, our reserves are close at hand. This year, because of COVID, we did not exercise. This year, because of COVID, we did not exercise. And all of a sudden, the Chinese got a whole lot of civil heavy trucks which were carrying building material for the construction of 2 airports near the border. They got into those, and they suddenly made a move to the border, and they crossed over into, they came into the Galwan Valley and into our territory, right? And they what they were trying to do basically is, we have constructed a new road from Darbuk, Sheok to Daulat Beg Oldie, a 255-kilometer new road, which is a very strategic axis which we now have to quickly move troops in Ladakh to the extremities of Ladakh, right? Now at there is a Sheok Galwan River junction, which is about 5 kilometers from the LAC, right? And the Chinese, they suddenly made a quick move, and they crossed over and came 3 kilometers inside the LAC and sat on the heights that were overlooking our highway to Daulat Beg Oldie. They, in a sense, did a Kargil.
Absolutely.
They did exactly what the Pakistanis did to us on the Leh-Srinagar highway by sitting on the heights across the highway. They also intruded, they brought in a brigade, a mechanized brigade here, right? And they also intruded into the Fingers area north of the Pangong So, where they brought in another brigade. The critical area was Galwan. They also intruded in a third area in the hot springs, and of course in North Sikkim, in Nakula. So at 4 points they engaged you, not one. In all the previous intrusions, they've just gone and engaged you at one single point, either at Chumar or Depsang or at Doklam, etc. This time they engaged you concurrently at 4 points. They came in brigade strength. Previously, patrols used to come and then the brigades used to follow. Now they came with a brigade and they sat on a very vital height, which almost cut it off. So then, of course, the whole process of we also counter-mobilized, matched them troop for troop, tank for tank, artillery, gun for artillery, gun. And then, of course, they were a bit surprised, but then negotiation started at the military level, brigade commander level, divisional commander level, and then they went up to the corps commander level. And then they agreed to disengage. They agreed that both sides would go back. We dutifully went back like good boys. The Chinese increased the strength, though they moved back from our border, but they increased the strength in the Galwan Valley, right, which is their part of Galwan. They increased their strength. And then they had retained occupation at that petrol point 14, from where they could look. They had created a watchtower to see what the hell was going on our side and to keep a watch on that road. Now, quite obviously, this was not acceptable. We sent people to see whether they have gone back or not. 16 Bihar Patrol, as you are aware, led by Colonel Santosh Babu, very brave officer. He went with a small patrol because it was part of the talks. He went with a small patrol to see whether they have gone back or not. They waylaid him, they ambushed him. And, we have that peace and tranquility accord with the Chinese 1993, 1996, 2005, etc., etc. And clause 6 of the 1996 agreement says no firearms will be used. No fire will be opened 2 kilometers either side of the border. Right? So the Chinese have this time very cleverly circumvented this clause of not using kinetic action. They came with baseball bats wound with barbed wire, baseball bat with spikes, and which are lethal. And they had collected pointed stones and they used knives to inflict grievous casualties. That CEO was more or less very badly wounded, and they expected that all the Indians would cut and run. We would just leave helter-skelter, leave his dead body also possibly there. But that's not what Indian troops do. We don't leave our dead behind, and especially not our commanding officer. The boys fought back, even though they knew they were outnumbered 10-1. They fought back with sticks and stones and whatever they could lay their hands on. And then they asked for reinforcements. And a royal fracas started. But the Chinese had the advantage. They were on higher ground. They were ready. They were ready, waiting in ambush. And so almost about 300 plus of the Chinese and 80 of the Indians. And I'm very, very happy to say our boys, God bless our boys of the 16 Bihar and the other units which were involved. We gave a damn good account of ourselves. And I think right now the official tally from our side is 35. 46 stretchers had been seen being taken out of that area. 46 stretchers, which would include dead, it would include the wounded.
Major General, I
want to 35.
Absolutely, and I want to just come in here. You categorically laid it, but मैं आपसे पूछना चाहता हूँ कि 4 घंटे पहले मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा कि अगर चीजें इतनी क्लियर है तो कंफ्यूजन कहाँ है। कल प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी ने जब आए उन्होंने कैटेगोरिकली कह दिया, आप भी टीवी डिबेट पे थे अर्नब के साथ में, और आपने भी कहा था कि रेजोल्यूट मैसेज, उन्होंने कहा कि हम लोग ने एयरक्राफ्ट हो गए, मिसाइल डिफेंस सिस्टम हो गए, द वर्ड्स वर चूजन वेरी केयरफुली. बट टुडे दी कांग्रेस लीडर राहुल गांधी ने कहा है कि पीएम हैज सरेंडर्ड इंडियन टेरिटरी टू चाइनीज अग्रेशन. इफ द लैंड वाज चाइनीज, why were our soldiers killed? Where were they killed? So this is a very, very big claim, and this is entirely the claim which is repeatedly made by Global Times. तो आपसे मैं ये पूछना चाहता हूँ मेजर जनरल की, आर्मी के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से ये स्टेटमेंट को आप किस तरीके से देखते हैं कि कहा जा रहा है कि पहली चीज तो मैं ये किल्ड वर्ड से मुझे नाराजगी है, हमारे कोई सोल्जर्स किल नहीं हुए थे, they fought in the battle very bravely and we've caused them double the casualties. तो ये स्टेटमेंट एकदम से क्यों आ रहा है 4 घंटे पहले आज सुबह?
मैं समझा नहीं, किसका स्टेटमेंट आ रहा है?
राहुल गांधी का. उन्होंने कहा है कि
राहुल गांधी,
उन्होंने कहा है, मैं नहीं मेजर जनरल जी ये इसलिए जरूरी है पीएम, because at this moment you need everybody to speak in one voice. Now after the all meeting, it was expected, yesterday you also said it on television, कि अब एक national resolve है, we have to give it back to the Chinese. Now before going to the details of how should we give it back to the Chinese, I want to focus on this statement because people want a response. Because this is this an art of creating confusion, or is this a deliberate concern? Because he goes ahead and says कि Prime Minister has said that PM, he has made an accusation that PM has surrendered Indian territory to Chinese aggression. Now this is a big claim, this is a massive claim. How do you respond to that? Is there any substance to it, or is this just mere smoke?
Look, firstly, the Prime Minister's statement has been extremely carefully worded. It's not off the cuff. You know, a lot of people in the military, perhaps in the foreign ministry, have applied their mind to it. I read an underlying intent to see if we can still salvage peace somehow. We should be able to do it. What my understanding is, I may be wrong, but my understanding is, as of now, as it stands, the Chinese are not in our territory. They had come in with the military agreement to go back. They have gone back, right? They have gone back, so therefore they are not in occupation of our territory. Yes. And the obfuscation is in the Pangong Tso Lake area. Our perception was that we are going till finger 8. The Chinese perception is no, it's till finger 2. So technically, if you want to really play with words, they are not, technically in Pangong Tso, they are still in what we perceive as our territory, but they perceive, because no maps have been exchanged of the delineation of the line of actual control. So we are also taking advantage to, I don't know whether to give the Chinese an escape clause, to give ourselves an escape clause. I'm not very sure. But as I see it, what is being said is that they had come in, they have gone back. So if you talk of now, they are not in occupation of Indian territory. I would like to keep an exception of, if you don't go by the varying perception.
Correct.
Because there is no line cast in stone. The only place where there was no doubt was Galwan. In Galwan, he's gone back. He's gone back to the LC. He had come in at Petrol Point 14. That's where the clash took place. He was still staying at Petrol Point 14. That's where the clash took place. And if I understand what the army had said correctly, they had erected a tent. Our troops have burnt that tent. They had erected a watchtower. If I understand correctly, they have destroyed that bloody watchtower before those boys died. But as a military man, I'm extremely upset. Why have we allowed the Chinese to dictate how this would be fought? Why is it confined to sticks and stones? Are we back in the Stone Age? Just because the Chinese army has a particular script that we will fight only with sticks and stones, because we will stick to the letter of the 1996 Accord that there will be no firing. What nonsense! That accord is now dead. And I was keenly hoping in the statement by the Prime Minister, I was dearly hoping that we would hear these welcome words that as of now, the rules of engagement are changed.
Absolutely.
Our troops are not to be killed by, or get martyred by sticks and stones. They have weapons, and now for private self-defense, they will be allowed to use their weapons. You know?
Major General, I am absolutely in agreement with you. And let me tell the viewers that 2 days back, the General had also tweeted this clause of not carrying weapons is absolutely stupid. The Chinese have used lethal force. 20 boys are martyred. Please change the ground rules instantly. So the nation reverberates in what you are trying to say, General. But my question to you is that I want to now focus on something which is called as the response. Now, the nation wants a befitting reply, Major General. Now, what are the options available in front of us? Now, the critics go ahead and say that the Chinese army, the Chinese defense budget is more than ours, and China is not Pakistan. But my counter to them is that Indian army is the most professional army in the world. What are we waiting for? What are the options? What are we deliberating? How do you see a response coming? Will there be a response of the magnitude of what we did in Balakot, or it will be I would say, not as big a response? What are the options available in front of us? Will we cross the LAC? How do you see it coming?
Look, what the government will decide, the government will decide.
Your individual opinion.
My individual opinion as a military man is, for God's sake, tell some people in the foreign ministry and our professional peaceniks to stop quaking in their bloody boots. गश खा के मरना मत शुरू करिए लड़ाई के पहले. You don't have to fight. The army has to fight. The air force has to fight. The navy, if required, has to fight. Okay. So, lakhs of liters, tons of water has flown down the Brahmaputra since 1962. True. The Chinese army that hit us in 1962 was combat hardened. They had fought 30 years of the Civil War. 3 years they had fought the Americans to a standstill in Korea. Then they fought 8 years in Tibet and then hit you. By that time, our army had been reduced by Nehruji to a peacetime army more concerned with Panchashil, peacekeeping operations, ahimsa, paramo, dharma, and that kind of crap. Right? The fighting spirit had been knocked out of this army. Good combat generals were kicked out for bootlickers. You understand what I'm saying? And those bootlickers led us to a disaster. They led us to a disaster led by Prime Minister Nehru, right? So my point at issue is, from then till now, we have fought the 65 war with credit. In the 71 war, we broke Pakistan in two. We gave a textbook campaign on how to fight to the whole world. The American army studies that. I hope you know that. The Israeli army studies that campaign. We were that damn good. Tri-service campaign. We broke Pakistan in two, created a new nation state with the force of arms. Then we next fought in, we fought in Sri Lanka, we fought in Kargil, we fought in Maldives, we fought in Jammu and Kashmir, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram. We fought all over. Today, we are a combat-hardened army. And let me give you the good news. The Chinese army, the last war that they fought was in 1942. Yes. And my advice to the Chinese military hierarchy is, don't get too bloody arrogant. Right? Right? You may get a few shocks. When armies suddenly turned from peacetime to combat, we know what happened to us in 62. You might get a few very nasty shocks and unpleasant surprises. They have become a peacetime army. I have visited Beijing. I have been to Nanjing. I have been to Shanghai, Hong Kong, etc. We have had a very close interaction with the Chinese army of today. And my frank impression was they have become theoreticians, more interested in non-contact warfare. Non-contact, non-kinetic, non-this, non-that. If the non is taken out, you might get a few shocks. And that is what I'm telling our people. China expects you to just stick to their script. True. Non-contact, we will not contact. We will, we will not use firearms. We will not use firearms because the Chinese say so. Why? Why should we play by the Chinese rule book? You give them a shock. You give them contact. They want non-contact warfare. They want media warfare. They want legal warfare. I mean, throw those bloody books into the Indus. We would like contact. So that let's also see. There are a lot of There are a lot of good Indian soldiers thirsting to revenge 1962, and now to that you have added the Galwan River Valley. You've added 21 martyrs more.
Your statements reflect the sentiment on the ground, let me tell you. But मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहता हूं, तो क्या ये आपको लग रहा है कि हम लोग एक कॉम्बैटेंट रिस्पांस दे पाएंगे, या आपको जैसे कि लग रहा है कि ऐसा नहीं होगा कि हम रिस्पांस देंगे और हम लोग बस बॉर्डर पे पेट्रोलिंग बढ़ा देंगे? किस तरीके से आर यू एक्सपेक्टिंग, लाइक इंडिविजुअली यू बीन स्टडीइंग द इंडियन आर्मी, द इंडियन पॉलिटी from quite some time. I remember when India had given a befitting reply at Balakot. You had even said it after what happened in Pulwama, that Indian Army will give a befitting reply. So I'm asking you, you've been a very keen observer. What are the options available in front of us? You've suggested a combative response to China. Now, do you feel that in the foreign ministry in general, there is a bit of restraint not to over-escalate the tensions with China? Because China is not Pakistan. Or are we fearless enough to go ahead and take it and not follow the Chinese script? Because as you said, that Chinese script is about deception, it is about using the media, it is about non-combative warfare, and we are masters of a combative warfare. Are we looking at a combative response from the Indian Army? Is the government contemplating about it? How do you see that?
Said, what the government is doing is what the government is doing. I am not privy, but I can tell you I can tell you what the spirit of the Indian Army is right now. It was not long ago that I served the Army. A lot of my students, I've been teaching at various combat institutions. A lot of my students are in key positions today, and their spirit is to give it back. They are ready, fully ready, but they need the orders from the government. True. So those orders, we hope and pray, will now come, because this has become too far. The Chinese are trying to publicly humiliate you in front of Asia, every Asian country, and the world. Now, whether you tamely accept to be humiliated or you've got the gumption to give it back, you can, not take the counsel of your fears and act boldly. Act boldly. Because you have to take courage in both your hands and do what is required to save your national self-respect. 21 of your soldiers have been martyred, and your response cannot be a bloody plethora of peace rhetoric and how to get out of it, and very clever formulations of how we can get out of it without fighting. I mean, tell our peaceniks not to quake in their boots. They will bloody well not be anywhere close to the fighting line. Let them sit in the bungalows of Lutyens and sip their champagne or whatever. Leave it to the boys. You leave it to the boys, they will surprise you by what they can do. Right? They'll surprise you by what they can do. We've studied the bean count. China may have a military budget 5 times your military budget. Ours is about 72 odd billion dollars a year. There is $250 billion a year. But don't forget, all of it, $250 billion worth, is not deployed against you. Their main area of focus, please understand this, the main Chinese strategic direction is towards Taiwan, South China Sea, East China Sea. They have to give that priority because their entire East Coast cities, their engines of their economy, are all there on that East Coast. Nothing here is being threatened of the Chinese mainland. There is Tibet, there is Xinjiang, which are outlying border provinces. They could easily, if push comes to shove, trade space for time. They cannot afford that on the Eastern Front. And my advice to the Chinese is, Chinese strategic culture, listen to this carefully, because this is meant for the people in Beijing. Chinese strategic culture tells you to focus on one strategic direction at one time. Your current strategic direction, you know it, we know it, is towards Taiwan, South China Sea, East China Sea. Right?
Absolutely.
They would be making a strategic mistake, grand strategic mistake, if they open another front towards India now. Because if a front is opened now, it may not stop. It may not deactivate very soon. And you would have created an ulcer on your western flank when you are busy fighting in the east. So my advice is, don't do it. if despite that they have done so far, then we need to tell them that, look, you can't keep pushing us around. We don't want to fight. We don't want a war, but you can't kick us around. And there will be costs and consequences if you try, because this is not the same India as it was in
Absolutely. Yeah, Major General, you are absolutely correct. And let me tell you that this interview is going massively viral and you are getting the support of the people of the country. There are a few Pakistanis also who have come on the Twitter timeline and they're trying to, spread hate. So that these foolish Pakistanis...
I keep reading these jokers and tickle myself.
They're like these dogs who need to be given their bread and biscuits. So there is one dog out here. My question to you, and let me bring this, dog of China called Pakistan on this interview. My question to you, Major General, is that China is ultimately being funded. Beg your pardon, Pakistan is ultimately being funded by China. Now, do you see China, Nepal, and Pakistan acting in unison? Nepal's foreign policy is being twisted by the Chinese. They're now trying to teach Mandarin in Nepal. How do you see the activity of China in the Greater Kashmir region? Now, it is for a historical mistake that Aksai Chin is Aksai Chin. Otherwise, it had been Aksai India, and entire Jammu and Kashmir is ours. But bearing apart few historical mistakes, how do you see this? So China is trying to activate Pakistan, and China is trying to engage us on the LAC, and is trying to twist the foreign policy of our neighbor like Nepal. Can we counter it by getting close to Taiwan? You also suggested it. How can we counter this? Do you see Pakistan and China acting in unison on two borders and trying to keep India engaged on two borders?
Yes, that is the worst case scenario. Two-front scenario. Our entire strategic planning is based on what? A two-front scenario. You should try and avoid it to the best of your ability. But if it can't be, if the two others decide, so be it. We are ready. We are ready for a two-front scenario. As far as Nepal is concerned, we scored the biggest self-goal in India's living history by putting the bloody JNU commie Maoist scum in power in Nepal. Right? It was the only Hindu country. We had a Raja who was supposed to be a reincarnation of Vishnu. We did our damnedest to get him out and get the communists in. Can you do something more stupid with a capital S?
Yes.
And what was your problem if that is a Hindu country? You tell me. I mean, what is your bloody problem? They were so, with Nepal, we have roti beti ka rishta. But that is what is the common phrase. I go one step beyond and I tell you that we have Khoon ka rishta. There are 40 Gurkha battalions which have been fighting for you in every war since independence. 47, 48, 62, 65, 71, Kargil. They've done a marvelous bloody job. Now how can we think of fighting the Nepalese? I mean, even the Indian army would feel humiliated and diminished if it was asked to fight Nepal. They are brothers. What is the problem? The problem is a Ceausescu chore, a Ceausescu-like chore called Oli.
Yes.
He is a corrupt bloody leader. He's a corrupt. You know what the Nepalese call him? The Ceausescu of Nepal. Ceausescu was that Romanian bloody leader, dictator, etc., and thoroughly corrupt. Now, to save his government was about to fall about 2 months ago, and the Chinese came in, called Prachanda, called all these Madhav, Nepal, and everybody, laid out, covered the table with money. And the communists are saleable. They are there for the highest bidder, right? And therefore, they saved Oli's government. And Oli is trying to pay back by becoming a pipsqueak of an irritant when we are engaged in fighting with China. All that I want to tell Oli is, this is called Haina. This is called a Haina Act. When two lions fight, the hyenas sit at the bloody back, laughing like the hyenas do, hoping that one lion will get seriously wounded and then they can attack him. We will not forget this. And Oli will pay a price. Whatever else it is, Oli will have to pay a price for the treachery of trying to destroy the fraternal, brotherly relations between India and Nepal. The people of Nepal will do it to him.
Absolutely. Major General, let me get back and draw your attention. The best part about talking to you is that you don't mince your words. You are not in the shades of gray. You are either here or there, and that is how truth is. let me get your attention back to China. Major General, I was studying China quite in depth, and what I have observed is that China utilizes the systems in the enemy nations in order to benefit them. Now, what I'm seeing is the amount of media coverage in some of the dailies in India is actually looking like a global Times coverage. They are more interested in the Chinese version of the India-China standoff than the Indian version of India-China standoff. They are more interested in what the Chinese spokesperson and the foreign ministry is saying than the Indian army. They are not interested in the Indian Air Force giving and coming up and giving the explanation, but they are more interested in the late night statements of the foreign ministry. Do you see that there are a lot of break India forces inside this country who have tied up with the Chinese, and they are deliberately doing it? And this is, as you say, it's not just a symmetric warfare, but the asymmetric warfare that the Chinese are trying to, peddle through these narratives. So my question to you is, why are we so excited by the Chinese narrative? 12 hours back, the Chinese spokesperson have given it, but why can't we trust our people? Because this is not a political fight. This is, at the end of the day, the fight of the army. Why are we doing this, Major General? Is this something which is, I would say, systematic? Do you feel that there is an invisible Chinese hand behind this?
Look, you just have to read the Chinese military doctrinal literature. Media warfare. They have whole sections devoted to media warfare, information warfare, cyber warfare. They've raised a command, a whole specific, section of the army, strategic and cyber kind of warfare ke conduct ke liye. They lay the money out on the table, to buy people, right from the Washington Post and New York Times. There are a number of people who have been purchased there, till there. So this is small stuff, man. There are a lot of people are very rich here because of Chinese largesse and generosity. But there is something that I would say: you can't become a clone of China in fighting China. Don't become a clone of China. Don't impose that same censorship here. Whatever it is, at the end of the day, I would go for democracy and a free press with fiercely contesting views. It will strengthen your main view, providing at the end of it you can what Mao said: let 100 flowers bloom, let 1,000 schools of thought contest. Let 100 flowers bloom, let Mao 1,000 schools of thought contest. But after that, Mao went and killed 30 million Chinese.
That is what I
so what we are saying is, at the end of the day, democracy seems weak compared to authoritarian government which speak in just one voice, and one voice of the paramount leader, maximum leader. Yeah, we had a maximum leader in Iraq, Saddam Hussein. We know what happened to him, but we have a maximum leader, paramount leader, president for life, chairman, Central Military Commission for life. And all voices in China stifled. All voices in China stifled because the boss has spoken. He has spoken, she has spoken. She, Jinping, I'm not punning on the gender.
There are many. She is also inside here, Major General. And Major General, my question to you is that you are a military veteran, but there is another individual who's been doing the rounds and spreading a lot of fake news. And this Shukla guy goes ahead and says, and I want your response to this because I cannot just handle falsehood. This Shukla guy says that it's all settled. The Prime Minister of India signaled today that the Galwan Valley, to defend which 20 Indian soldiers died this week, is not unambiguously Indian territory. And on cue, the Chinese government has officially repeated its claim to the entire valley. And why are these people doing this, General? These are people who call themselves ex-army officers. These are the people who call themselves as ex-military veteran. And then the day after, when he tweets, he goes ahead and writes in New York Times. Now, so is this a whole caucus and is this a whole cabal which is trying to weaken India from inside because of their hate towards the present government? This is, I can't bear this. If somebody is a ex-army officer, why will an ex-army officer tweet things which will belittle the Indian army? Or why will they give preference to the Chinese version over the Indian version? This is a very serious question, Major. And why do I ask you this? Because such people are in the garb of being military veterans.
Something. Shukla was my gentleman cadet when I was
Okay.
an instructor in the Indian Military Academy. My advantage is that I have been an instructor for 3.5 years, Indian Military Academy, then another 3.5 years at the Staff College, Defense Services Staff College, where Army, Navy, Air Force, all officers they served. I taught them. And then I was an instructor finally at the apex level at the National Defense College, where Army, Navy, Air Force, of course, Foreign Ministry, IB, police, all these officers come for the highest level teaching course in the armed forces, that is the National Defense College. So I have the advantage of knowing most of them as students and having written some of their dossiers. So Ajay was a good boy. I was surprised that I thought he was intelligent, and he is intelligent, there is no doubt. I thought he would have gone far, but he stopped at Colonel. And there is quite obviously a chip on the shoulder. I mean, it's sad, but that is the way it is. And but then, basic loyalties are basic loyalties, right? And especially when there is a situation of a clash, you might get to know certain things because you have friends at various places who are still serving, you know. But I have to exercise my judgment on how much I should tell. What is, at the end of the day, I am an Indian. I'm not a global
Yeah.
citizen. I am
Yeah.
not. I'm an
True.
Indian. You know, I also may have felt very bad. Oh, I should have gone become army chief, army commander, etc., etc. I got stopped at 2 stars. So be it. I still owe my loyalty to my country. But some of us forget that, and that's sad. That's sad.
You are
We should
saddened
not
with
forget
seeing
that
this.
that we are Indians first and everything
Yes.
else later.
So you are sad with what has happened to Ajay Shukla and how he is responding, because these are things which circulate and come, and most of the Chinese handles are going ahead and tweeting this. In fact, the Chinese people are putting these as point of reference to build their case. If you
No, that's
remember, and
okay.
why do I
But
say
I would still,
that?
I would no, no. But let me
Sorry,
be make something which will say something
one
which will.
very second.
Sorry.
Why do I say this? Because if you remember in Kulbhushan Jadhav's case, when Harish Salve was arguing at the International Court of Justice, the Pakistanis, when they were arguing the case, they had used some of the India media platforms and journalists as court of reference to build their case. My worry is futuristic, Major General.
No, you are absolutely right, and that is why I said any military expert has to exercise self-censorship because there is freedom of speech in this country to the extent that you can go into JNU and shout for the breakup of India, for the slaughter of the Supreme Court judges who dared to pass judgment
Please.
of death on Afzal Guru, etc., etc. They are free. They are still merrily going about abusing this country, threatening to break it up. But at the end of there is now something where the law of sedition has to apply. We don't apply it there, but we start applying it here. Uh, I would say something which will surprise you. At the
Please.
end of the day, I would still there be democracy and freedom of expression because that distinguishes us from China. Even if
Absolutely.
people act idiotic, they
Hmm.
have a right as per our constitution to do so. They have a right as per our constitution to do so. It airs various views out. It strengthens our resolve and argument to do what is right. I would still go by free expression of opinion rather than becoming a clone of China and have some more maximum leaders like Xi Jinping, being reborn on the Indian side.
No, no, I agree with you. In fact, democracy is our biggest strength. Let me, turn your
Biggest
attention.
asset, biggest
Asset
asset
strength.
is
Yes, yes,
democracy.
because China is a bubble, and we've seen how bubbles which have been authoritarian in their
No, no.
entire.
May I just add something there? Sir,
Please,
because
please,
something very important struck me.
please.
Democracies appear weak. In the Second World War, they took a clobbering, pasting, beating initially. What happened at the end of that war? The dictatorships of Germany and Japan and fascist regimes in Italy were destroyed by democracies. Don't underestimate democracies.
Absolutely.
Don't underestimate democracy because freedom, innate freedom, we wish and pray the Chinese people get it. They are also very restive. They are also very
Absolutely.
restive, especially
No,
after COVID when you killed that doctor who blew
Mhm.
the beans. You killed that doctor. They killed that doctor. You want that happening here? No.
Never.
We are a democracy and we will win because
Absolutely.
we are a democracy.
Major General, let me point your attention back to the geopolitics of this. Now, in this India-China standoff, the United States of America has categorically come in support of India. And you have particularly tweeted about this. Now, this fraud, let me use this word very deliberately, and I'm using this word deliberately, Major General, this fraud of non-alignment. Has time come for India that this fraud of non-alignment should end, and India should categorically know who are its friends and who are not its friends? The time is in this modern era where people are looking for another pole to China, because this is for the first time in the past 40 years, if I may say, that there is a global distrust with respect to China. Now people are looking at a different pole. People are looking at another alternate power in Asia. Now this has to happen on the bent of economy. It has to happen on the bent of strong strategic defense. It has to happen on the brand of lot of knowledge power. Now, India has the capability and the potential, which we all of us know. But my question to you is, can all that capability and potential be realized by being under the garb of non-alignment? Has time come for India to junk permanently non-alignment, which has been, and which is now a bogus treaty?
Look, you know something. A conservative was defined as a chap who's too cowardly to fight and too fat to run. Listen to this carefully. A conservative was defined by a chap who's too cowardly to fight and too fat to run. Non-alignment was a stupid policy of a person who was too cowardly to fight. He was not fat, but he did not want to run. He did not want to be seen running. It may have suited that era. I would still say that much. It may have suited that era because the first Cold War was between Russia or the Soviet Union and United States. Both were distant from us, right? So we could afford not to choose sides. So the Americans were not threatening us directly, nor were the Russians. They didn't have a border with us, neither of these states, right? Cold War 2.0. If you think you can get away with non-alignment, you are the biggest bunch of mentally retarded idiots that I could ever think of. China has a border with you. You understand? One of the superpowers now, China has a border with you. The Americans don't. It's just as simple as that. And Acharya Chanakya, Kautilya, said, my enemy's enemy is my friend.
Yes.
I am here to look after the interests of India. I'm not interested in the rest of the Cold War architecture. This bloody Vishwa Guru. Nehru wanted to be a Vishwa Guru. He was more interested. He thought he was a global leader. His greatness was too great to be contained by the smallness of India. He was at the, a global statesman, getting peace between USSR and the United States. He was at that level. He had no time for India and how to fight China on your own border, how to fight Pakistan. You're too up in the air, that kind of a thing. And we got a rude shock, rude wake up in 1962 when the Chinese told you, you better look after your own backyard. Otherwise, if you get kicked in your backyard, you can forget about Vishwa Guru. Because I hate that. You be strong in your own region first. The rest of the world will respect you because the world respects strength. Now you have no option but to align. And let me tell you what your alignment architecture to balance a rising, increasingly aggressive, increasingly irrational China is. The America, but more than America, I would like to say straight first, Japan, Vietnam, India. That should be the Asian architecture. Add-ons are America and Australia. Because we are not sure when push comes to shove, who will stand by you. The good news is we are strong enough to stand on our own 2 feet now. If you don't do it now, you never will. Listen to this carefully. If you don't stand up on your own 2 feet now and be counted, You never will, sir. You will become a nation the size of Indonesia or the stature of Indonesia because, those poor people are buckling down in South China Sea. You want to buckle down? You want to buckle down? पंजाबी में कहते हैं फिट्टे मुंह तुम्हारा फिर. That's what you will get from the rest of the world. That is the respect you will get.
Major General, I want to now ask a very educative question. This a lot of people are asking on the comment. Can you just elaborate to us the LAC, the line of actual control, from which region, from where does it start, everything about it? Because there are again confusions. Now, Manish Tiwari has asked, does LAC run at finger 8 or finger 4 in the Sangsong Lake? So my question to you is, can you just educate our viewers with respect to LAC, from which part does it start, from till where does it end? This is a very educative question, just so that there is no illusion about it. There is absolute clarity about it.
Look, please understand the difference between LOC and LAC. It's not just the difference of a single word. The line of control on the India-Pakistan frontier has been mapped duly by both sides, mapped, signed and exchanged. It has been seen through on the ground, walked through. When one unit takes over from the other on the line of control with Pakistan, the first thing that CO and the company commanders, every Jawan has to understand is, where is the LC on the map? Where is it on the ground? Which patthar, which stone, which tree? Is that tree this side or that side? It's all known. So that is a line more or less cast in stone, just like your international border is. The line of actual control is that the Chinese, after giving you a thrashing in 62, on their own very magnanimously agreed to withdraw 20 kilometers behind. And then they said the line which was finally there was the line of actual control. That is that it is not the border, but it is what you control and what I control. So it is the line of actual control. When we were going through for the peace accord, tranquility accords of 1993, and then 1996 is when the whole thing happened, right? We had that, I told you, that famous clause 6, which we said within 2 kilometers of the LAC border, you will not open fire. You will not open fire, etc., etc. And that time, we had requested the Chinese delegation to please give us your map, which show us what is your perception of the LAC. The Chinese delegation was about to give it to us. Then at the last minute, they said, no, and they got out of it. Okay? They got out of it, and till today, they have not given it to us. Till today, no maps have been exchanged, sir. The LAC has not been delineated on the ground. So now what are we left with? One is our perception of the LAC, and second is their perception of the LAC. And in between that is a gray zone. This gray zone does not exist with Pakistan. So if there is a transgression, heads will roll. Heads will roll. And last time in Kargil, we strung up that poor brigadier, Surinder Singh, right? But the fact of the matter is, heads will roll if anything is changed on the line of control. But line of actual control, there is a getaway escape clause. Both sides have. And I hope we are not using it. But the fact of the matter is, there is an escape clause that it is their perception of the LAC. This is our perception of the LAC.
Major General,
Sorry to want to keep it. I'll just finish. The Chinese want to keep it that way because it gives them a pressure point to finger you whenever they want.
Yes,
whenever
that is my question.
Yes, Major General, they can finger you. Why should they get it cast in stone?
Yes.
Because then they will be found out for the kind of games that they play.
Yes.
Okay. So the point at issue is now, but the point at issue is extremely serious. It is not the LAC.
Okay.
Don't get this thing. We had a peace and tranquility accord. Let me say it unequivocally. It is held for the last so many decades. On the night 15-16 June, our peace and tranquility accord have become history. They have been consigned to the dustbins of history. This is what the nation must understand. And if somebody still wants us to fight with sticks and stones, as a former soldier, I say, may perdition fall on your head for getting our boys to this tamasha, reduced to this tamasha. No question. The government has to change the rules of engagement now.
Absolutely.
Because, and I'll just finish. In 1962, all the history analysis blames the then government for not using the Air Force. Listen to what I'm saying very carefully. History blames you for not using the Indian Air Force, which was then stronger than what the Chinese had opposite us in Tibet, which could have changed the outcome of that war. But in this war, what will history say? Are you with me? What will history say? We never went beyond sticks and stones. You didn't use the army, navy, air force. वो तो भूल जाइए एयर फोर्स. आप तो पत्थर और सोटी के ऊपर नहीं गए साहब, लाठी के ऊपर नहीं गए. We will laugh at you if you confine yourself to this, and I'm sure
I'm in agreement with you, Major General, that history will not judge well if we do not respond to the Chinese. And this is not 1960s, this is 2020s. And if we do not respond now, when will we respond? But my point to you, Major General, I want to just, you made a very, very important point, and this is a very pertinent point. That Chinese have not drawn the LAC, but I would say this to you, Major General, and this is my understanding, they have done it strategically. Because you know this, Major General, that Chinese are very clever at altering the status quo at borders. Most of the land which the Chinese have taken has been either by deception or by force. They go to an area, plan the military at that place, and then they say this is the status quo, and then they negotiate and ensure that some part of the territory of the neighboring country is in their hold. So in these past many years, has this also been our failure that we've not able to push the Chinese to draw the LAC? Because till the time the LAC is not drawn, not clear, if there is a gray zone, China will continuously use this as a means to alter the status quo, because two sides have two different perceptions, and what you are relying individually as a country is only on good faith. Now you cannot trust any country blindly in this committee of nations. So what have you done in the past so many years? You've just trusted the Chinese, that version of the Chinese LAC is fine and they will not use this to transgress our borders. Now this is absolutely foolish, Major General.
I couldn't agree more with you. Firstly, let me make one unequivocal statement. The Chinese armed forces, listen to this, the Chinese armed forces are the biggest land grab mafia in the whole bloody world.
Yes.
They are the biggest land grab mafia in the whole damn world, whether in South China Sea. They have come up with creative ways. You must hand it to the Chinese. They come up with ingenious methods how to grab others' territory, create artificial islands. And by the way, I hope you know they've created one in the Maldives and one in Sri Lanka. I don't think it is all confined to South China Sea. It is just that we don't want to talk of unpleasant things because we may be forced to fight. And we are so ahimsa loving, how peace loving we are. I mean, it makes my bloody blood boil. So the biggest land grab mafia, you think they would want a perfectly delineated line? Now, please understand, I am a military historian. Let me give you a piece of military history. What did the Chinese attack you in 1962 for? Was it because of the alignment of the boundary?
No.
Bullshit. They attacked you, sir, because they felt that you were going along with the CIA and, stoking the trouble in Tibet. Dalai Lama had taken refuge this side. It's another thing that the CIA, it was a total CIA operation in which we had nothing to do. We had nothing to do. Okay? And yet the Chinese felt, how can it be without their knowledge? Let's teach the bloody Indians a lesson. इनको सिखा देंगे, अपने आप झग बैठ जाएगी. So they look for an excuse. What better excuse than the border dispute? They escalated the border dispute. They taught you a lesson. Why should they are still worried about Tibet? Have you understood? They are still worried about Tibet. The problem is not the border, sir. They will never settle the border with you. Till as long as they feel that Tibet could blow up in their faces, they will never settle the border with you. There are lots of people who told me, "Arey, wo ho jayega, hum kar lenge." You know, we will get them to sit with us and talk with us and pin them down to settle the border. Abhi tak to saab hua nahi, aur na wo hoga, because that is his pressure point against you. Whenever he wants to go to war with you, he has got a very ready-made excuse. He'll manufacture 2 incidents on the border and go and try and clobber you. So you should now be able to tell him, ki, sir, if you don't negotiate this border, if you don't delineate this border, there could be tragic costs and consequences for you too. We will suffer.
Wait a minute. I want to stop you on that. This is a very, very important point. This is the important point. Are you suggesting categorically, and let me put it very bluntly to you, are you suggesting that we should say to the Chinese directly that if you do not demarcate LAC and you do not demarcate it well, so that there are no two perceptions about the LAC, we can also do things in Tibet? Are you saying that?
I would not say that. I would do that. Okay? We talk nonsense. We talk so big. Karke dikhana. We should not say that. We should do that. But I'm very glad to see that we've started doing that. 2 of our members of parliament went to Heng Thai's, installation in Taiwan. There is the Taiwan card. There is the Tibet card. There is the Xinjiang card. China can play every bloody card against you. You know what China has done to you? They gave the nuclear weapon design to Pakistan. The first 4 nuclear weapons of Pakistan, the uranium had come from China. The first Pakistani test was not in 1998. It was done at Lopnor in China. Have you understood? They gave M11, M9 missiles to China. When the Americans put sanctions, they put China in touch with North Korea. And A.Q. Khan got Taipodong and Nodong missiles from North Korea, which they gave fancy names like Abdali and Babar and what have you, Shaheen, etc. Okay? They have done the damnedest to hurt you through Pakistan, now through Nepal, through Sri Lanka, through Maldives. They keep hurting you. It is our job to talk peace. The entire onus of peace
also goes to war, Major General.
Give it tit for tat. Tit for tat. Tit for tat. Do to the Chinese exactly as they do to you, and they will understand. And like I said, please tell them, look, buddy, if you don't delineate the line of control now, it cannot be an annual tamasha every year that we will have this tamasha. There could be costs and consequences. Are you willing to raise those costs and consequences to China? Have you the guts? Chaliye. I ask the people of India, have you the bloody guts? Chalo, let's see.
I think your passion is extremely reflected in the way you speak, and it is not mincing word. I have been saying this again and again. My last 2 questions to you, Major General. We are towards the end of the interview, and I can tell you that I have done 14 conversations, but I haven't got such amount of response for any conversation till now. You have crossed lakhs of following, and this is because you speak the truth. Now there is a question, the outcome. Yes, so there are people are saying that the outcome of this discussion should be given to the NSA. So people are loving you, Major General. People want to see you at a bigger role because your strategic depth is immense, and you reflect that strategic depth with the categorical speak on the television. But let me tell you, Major General, there are 2 points which I still want to ask you, and after that I'll close the interview. My penultimate question to you, Major General, and this might hurt some certain people, is that are we at this moment looking at a situation that, because we have a very strong government in terms of numbers in this country right now, we have been extremely, I would say, correct in revoking Article 370, which was long overdue. This has somehow rattled the Pakistani because they used to use Kashmir, the separatists, and all to keep India engaged, keep India boiled. Are you seeing that the Chinese are feeling the threat that at this moment that there is a possibility that India can grow and India can grow for long, and India can become stronger economically. Now, how do we stop India becoming strong economically? Number one is that we ensure that there is instability in this country. Number two is that we create a situation where there is confusion in this country. Number three is a situation where we ensure that people of this country only demoralize, or there are people in this country, the Break India forces, who demoralize the Indian armed forces. What I'm seeing right now, Major General, that political opportunism at this time is creating confusion and is creating two narratives. The political opportunists want to look this as an opportunity to bring down the prime minister of this country, and want to look at this opportunity that, okay, fine, if Modi cannot take on the Chinese, we have a whole opportunity politically to get votes, which is what I am seeing. Do you fear that amidst this politics in this country, there is a possibility, Major, and this is very, very categorical, that we might not respond as hard to the Chinese as we should? Because in order to respond hard to the Chinese, you need a national resolve. We are one as a country. But what I'm fearing now is there might be a silent lobby, which you also know is the Break India lobby, which will use all the means and machineries to weaken and to belittle the response. Because I am extremely shocked when the Prime Minister yesterday said that कोई भी हमारी 1 इंच की जमीन नहीं ले सकता और ना कभी ले पाएगा. People took just one line of the statement and are now playing it across ki bhai dekho, has Modi changed the LAC? So why will a Prime Minister do that? Why will a Prime Minister do that? I don't understand any logic. Why are they trusting the Chinese more than the Indian Prime Minister? Why are they trying to bring a situation where there are two voices in this country? One voice says that Modi has not done well, not belittled the armed forces. And there is another voice, which is the majority voice, which says that India should give a befitting reply to the Chinese. I am fearing this negative.
If India gives a befitting reply to the Chinese, the whole country will come behind. If India gives a befitting reply to the Chinese, trust the people of India. Trust the judgment of the common villager. Right? He's already behind. I hope you saw the funerals.
Yes.
I had to put on TV and, talk on those funerals.
Yes.
Right? The whole country is already behind you. If a minuscule minority in Lutyens, Delhi is not behind you, they can go climb a gum tree. They can go climb a gum tree and sit on it for all that I care. Modi is the duly elected Prime Minister of India. Right? And nothing can change that. Only the next election can. So, I would say to Modi ji, what has been said, please open the first chapter of the Gita. I know, here is a man under tremendous stress and strain. The Chinese have chosen the time of COVID, when there is chaos in the country, when India is weakened. They have chosen this time deliberately for that, because they expect you to back down. Do the unexpected. All warfare is based on deception. Throw the Chinese book back at them. The Chinese will be shocked if you react now. They expect you to back down. They expect you to tamely accept it, fall in the same category as Indonesia and Malaysia, and they'll tell the rest of Asia, this is the guy you thought would stand up to us? ये देखा इसको, ये देखो पतलून खिसक गई, ये लोग ढूंढ रहे हैं excuses to get out of it, etc., etc., etc. So it will be a courageous decision. I'm sure he has shown that courage in removing Article 370. It's a bold move. It is a bold move. We need some more. Fortune favors the bold. If you want peace,
but
be prepared for war. No, this is important. This is important.
What are the worries? Why are people worrying? If we are so resolute, what are the worries? What can be the cost? I fear why are we worrying a bit? What is holding us back? Or we are
worried. We are worried because there is COVID, there is chaos. Maharashtra are three industrial areas. Maharashtra, Chennai, Delhi. These are all the worst affected by COVID. Right? The rest of the country, 75% of the country is quite COVID-free, but that's mostly the countryside. So there are reasons to worry, but hasn't China got COVID?
Yes.
Isn't COVID now coming to Beijing?
Yes.
Isn't COVID coming to Beijing? And let me now give you the biggest shocker of all. You ask me as a military man, I think this COVID-19 pandemic is China's biological warfare deliberately waged against the world. Yes. That is why China is acting so aggressive, because it knew that it had unleashed this weapon. It is now trying to exploit that. It's trying to exploit that in Taiwan, in South China Sea, East China Sea, and now India. Wherever it feels nations have been weakened, it is trying to push. It is trying to give it back. 2 American aircraft carriers were sent to Taiwan and South China Sea, right? Ronald Reagan and Theodore Roosevelt, the biggest aircraft carriers, nuclear powered. Their crews were down with COVID. They were rendered hors combat. Both the carriers had to be withdrawn from operations, and China very triumphantly paraded the Liaoning aircraft carrier, made it sail round the Taiwan Straits. The American aircraft carriers are back there. Okay, the crews have been changed. The American aircraft carriers are back there with a third nuclear aircraft carrier called Nimitz. China will also have to think, if it pushes the world will push back. Arey, you unleashed this bioterrorism against the world. How low can you get? You have this on your conscience. Over 6 to 7 million people affected globally, and over 4 lakh human beings killed. You've destroyed families. The children could not meet their parents, grandparents. They could only see them behind glass walls. You did it to us. You did it to the world. And to save yourself, you did it in Wuhan, so that the world would say, oh, ye to wahan bhi hua. This country has got a guilt. And I think we should not back down in the face of Rakshas or kya hote. If you are prepared to use biological warfare, aap Rakshas ki category mein hai. Then you have to be fought against. Then the people should not take the counsel of their fears. They should not take the counsel of cowardice. Then they should fight and give it back to China. And the biggest country in Asia which can do it is you. Don't buckle down. So keep your spine straight. Keep your spine straight. Let the armed forces do what they have to do. Those boys are not scared. Why are you?
Absolutely. Major General, my last question to you, and on this I want to end this. Let me tell you, Major General, the beauty of this 1 hour, 10-minute conversation. We both have been on so many conversations on TV. You might be a lot on military affairs. I've been on political conversations. But these one-to-one conversations which go in depth give you the opportunity to, speak on topics at length. And you have spoken on things at length. And people have really loved it, got the nuance on a lot of it. My last question to you, it is a bit rhetorical, but what do you want to tell the people of this country as they wait with bated breath in this India-China standoff? What do you want to tell the people of this country? And that will be the closing comments. Any last closing comments?
I would like to quote Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Okay? I would like to quote Guru Gobind Singh Ji. We do not go around looking for fights. We do not go around looking for this thing. But we don't like to be pushed. And for the people of India, I would say, Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj said, "Na darao adisao jab jaye ladao, निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करो, डरो नहीं, अड़ो नहीं, जाओ." If you are being pushed to a fight, आपको धक्के मार रहा है कंधे पे लड़ने के लिए, 20 मार दिए, एक कर्नल और 21 जवान मार दिए. ये मत बोलो कि हमने 42, 43, 30 मारे इसलिए साहब हिसाब बराबर है, अब हम नहीं लड़ेंगे. 21 घरों में चूल्हा जलना बंद हो गया है. We didn't start it, you did. हमने नहीं शुरू किया. युद्ध के देवता उतावलापन नहीं चाहते युद्ध में, लेकिन लगातार कोई धक्का देता रहे तो फिर युद्ध ना करना पाप है, डरना पाप है.
Ladies and gentlemen, on this note, let me with absolutely open arms and say, Major General, thank you so much. Thank you so much for reflecting the voice of the people, voice of the veterans. And Major General, I have traveled, you know that I travel, I've been traveling across the country. I've traveled more than 400 constituencies. And let me tell you that the voice of the people is also कि अगर चाइना के साथ अगर हम आगे जाते हैं, लड़ाई करते हैं, तो हर घर से हम 3 बच्चे आगे आर्मी में भेजने के लिए तैयार हैं. ये है जनमानस की सोच. और मुझे उम्मीद है कि इस सोच का आदर इस देश के शासनकर्ता जो हैं और इस देश की सरकार है वो जरूर करेगी. घबराने की जरूरत नहीं. और जैसे कि आपने कहा कि डर के आगे जीत है. हमने युद्ध नहीं चाहा, ना हम युद्ध चाहते हैं. पर अगर कोई हमारे जवानों को मारेगा, कोई अगर हमारे जवानों पे अटैक करेगा, तो हम चुप नहीं बैठेंगे, क्योंकि दुनिया सिर्फ और सिर्फ स्ट्रेंथ को रिफ्लेक्ट करती है. मेरे साथ जुड़ने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मेजर जनरल साहब. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. अपने स्वास्थ्य का ख्याल रखिए. आज शाम को आपको टेलीविजन पे भी आपसे मुलाकात होगी. धन्यवाद, शुक्रिया, थैंक यू.